What is up, you guys? I'm James Reptiles. In today's video, we're taking a look at every single crested gecko and gargoyle gecko that I own. So I'm gonna go through and feed them all. I'm gonna maybe go over some of what the plans are for a lot of them, and I'm gonna take you guys along for every single part of that. So make sure to stay tuned, and hopefully you guys enjoy. I'll see you in a second. Totally off topic, but that's a pregnant isopod. You see that yellowy patch in the middle? I'm sure it doesn't catch on camera, but I can actually make out the, I can make out individual babies. You can see there's like lumps. There's no way that'll pick up on camera though. But that's actually really cool. Alright, so I feed all of my new Caledonian species every other day. And with the crested geckos and the gargoyle geckos, this is just kind of the way you have to do it. And of course, cleaning every other day. When I come in here, there is often poop, and that's just something you kind of have to live with. I'm not going to change the paper towel every time a gecko poops. That would cost way too much money. There's no way to justify that many paper towels. That's actually just really bad for the environment. So, you know, I only usually do it when it gets really bad. And let me just get this gecko out. So this gecko, I call it Cluster, obviously. And a lot of these are just ones I'm going to take to shows. So about half these babies are probably red grow-ups that I purchased. And another big chunk are just ones I need to take to shows and sell them, or, you know, let them grow up a little bit and sell them. And there's a couple in here that I'm going to keep for myself, but what I like to do, take the food out, throw it away, check the water. If there's anything floating at the water, I get a new water. But before I put new food in, I will spray it down, and I try not to spray it down too heavy. And then, for each individual one, I don't pre-pour my food. Let me just, there we go. For each individual one, I pour the food. That way I can kind of get an idea how much each gecko needs. And with a lot of geckos, if a gecko's looking skinny at all, I do feed crickets once a week. But maybe if I haven't offered them in a while, or an animal's not wanting to take crickets, if it looks skinny for any reason, one thing I definitely do is I'll hold the gecko and I'll just put its nose in the food a little bit, and it'll usually lick the food right off its own face, just to clean its face off, and usually that gets them excited about food on its own. So this is Cluster. I know his name's Coke. Back in the day, I used to name them all, and this is just my tag. I keep track. I know who the dad was. Not sure who the mom was. That's his number. C for crested. Egg date, hatch date. Didn't keep track of any of that. Stuff happens. In the future, I want to keep track of everything a lot more. And I'll talk about this more in another video, but I actually want to separate all my crested gecko females. I did it with my leopard geckos this year, and it just made a big difference. And I'm seeing a lot of my crested females not laying eggs, but I can't tell which ones they are. So that's something I want to do, and I'll go more into depth about that in the future. But for now, that's one done, and we have about 11, 18 more, plus the 3 breeders. So let's get to it. Alright, now this baby is the first of the red group. Now, the red group is a group from a friend of mine. He had 3 really nice geckos that when fired up, they were all really nice reds. And he was hatching out tons of babies, and he was selling them to me for really cheap because he didn't like dealing with people. And I'd come over and I'd buy 4 or 5 at a time. So now I have like 15 of them. This is the first one. I'm going to be honest with you guys, not a whole lot of them are really red. I'm hoping that in the future their colors get a little bit better. And if they don't, I'm going to sell them and actually start a red group, because a red group is one that I really want to get. I think red crested geckos sell really nice, and not enough people actually produce them. So that's something I'm going to work on in the future, and you'll see a lot of these with the red tags are from the red group, and some aren't. It just, for the most part, the reds are. Now this girl is one I purchased from Pangea and raised up. Now, obviously she's only like 20 grams, and she did have an issue at one point. I had her in with another gecko, and they bit her tail a little bit, and you know, it healed up really nice. I don't think it's too bad at all. Of course, she still got her pad. Now, I've had people call this an extreme harlequin, and when I looked extreme harlequins up on MorphMarket, because I'm not really good with that stuff. Dalmatians and pinstripes are easy, so I know those obviously. But pretty much all the other stuff, the fires, the Harleys, and all that kind of stuff, I'm not good with. So when I saw this animal, obviously it looks like it has tiger stripes. So I called it Super Tiger. And people are calling it Extreme Harlequin. I'm not really sure. Obviously I don't have a spot for this in any of my projects. And, you know, I would like to sell it. So I have one guy, I have a friend I promised it to, who's really keeps me waiting, I'd say. So I do have it offered to someone else, and I told that other person, I said, hey, whenever you're ready to buy it, let me know. He's actually willing to pay more for it, so I just told him, I said, hey, let me know, it's here. If the other guy buys it before you, he buys it. But yeah, this girl won't be staying, but she's definitely a girl at 20 grams. Now this gecko is one I produced this year. Lots of red spots on that side, huh? I bought the mom this last year, and she laid, I think, 1 or 2 clutches for me, and this was the nicest baby by far. Of course, I think the yellowy patternless with the dots is the best. I would prefer no red dots, but hold on, give me a second. But both mom and dad have a couple red spots, so this is a gecko I'm raising up for myself. If it's a male, it'll probably replace my male, and if it's a female, it'll absolutely replace one of my females. Not the biggest head structure, but you know, with the pattern and all that, that's something I can work on in the future and kind of refine. But you know, this is almost exactly what I'm looking for, so why not get that and just get what I'm looking for, get really close to what I'm looking for really fast. And you know, I can have plenty of time later to refine the head structure and get the biggest of the biggest heads in there. This here is a, you know, really almost full pinstripe. Lots of tiny Dalmatian spots. I produced this, I believe. I think this was the last baby I produced of the year last year. And if you look closely enough, you can see a little bit of floppy tail. Its tail, I mean, it's really hard to tell, but its tail is flopping just a little bit. So this is probably one I'll take to the show and just see how much I can get for it. And if someone, you know, wants to pay $100 for that, sweet, awesome. That's $100 less, $100 more worth of crested gecko food I can get. So now the next couple of geckos, that one included, are nothing too special and absolutely a great example of why I bought a bunch of new tubs yesterday. None of them have a tail. Now these three have kind of grown up together, and I've noticed this, if you don't feed crickets, you keep a lot more tails. If you start to feed crickets, you start to lose tails. This is starting to grow mold, so I'm chucking it. I don't spray with any of the cardboard in there because it makes it grow mold way faster. But none of these 3 geckos in here were really anything too exciting. You can see the red tag, one of them was for sale. I probably took it off because of the tail or something like that. It might still be up there, I'm not really sure. But I know all 3 of these geckos I'm going to take to the show and hopefully not come back with any of them. But like I said, I got a bunch of new tubs. I've got to wash a couple tubs, and my next plan is to keep every single hatchling gecko separate. Maybe raise them up for a couple weeks, just so they kind of learn how to eat from each other. Maybe they understand crickets a little bit, and then really start to separate them before I sell them, so I can really understand each gecko and, you know, not lose as many tails. I have no idea what you would call this gecko, but I called it a Dalmatian, I think. I'm pretty sure this one's sold. I'm pretty sure I have to ship this one out. One of these that's separated on its own, I have to ship out next week. Shipped one out this week, delivered a baby gargoyle locally, and I think it's this one. I believe it has to be this one because it's the only one by itself that's for sale. And this one will ship out. Another one of those where it lost its tail, nothing too special. A nice geck, you know, something like that just makes a great pet. It doesn't always have to be a super dal or a quad stripe or anything like that. And stuff like that just makes good pets. So this tub has some awesome potential. A lot of these baby geckos in here are really nice. That one, can't wait for that one. That one's got a lot of Dalmatian spot potential. This female, an awesome quad stripe with lots of Dalmatian spots and a really cool paradox spot right there. You can see the white, a huge head. I'm not sure if I want to keep this gecko. Like I said, it was originally produced by Fringe Morphs. I actually traded for it from someone who bought it from them. And I have lineage if anyone really wants that. But it is a gorgeous gecko. And I'll probably end up taking it to a show and selling it as a ready to breed female, you know, once it puts a little bit more weight on. But that's a really pretty gecko, and you know, I might end up keeping it, who knows. Alright, so these next two are just two that I'm going to take to a show and sell. They'll make great pets for someone, but I have no intention of keeping these animals and using them to breed. They'll just be really good pets, and hopefully someone gets them and brings them to a good home. This is another one of those red babies, obviously not very red. Now it is probably just fired down, but a lot of the babies just, you know, they were bright red as babies and haven't shown much of that color since, which is absolutely unfortunate. But like I said, you know, I come in here and I feed at a time when they're probably not fired down. So, you know, maybe I'm just not seeing it, and maybe they're just not grown into their colors yet. But a lot of them are still babies, and this is pretty much all reds right here. In fact, I think it is all reds. So the two red females I got all the babies from. There was one patternless, which is what I prefer, especially in a red. And there was one that was kind of flamey. This is one of those babies from that flamey one. You can see a little bit of inspiration come through. And hopefully this baby looks like that mom, because she was real pretty. But probably not one I'll keep. Most of the flame reds I'll probably end up selling. I'll probably just mainly look at the patternless ones to pick what I like. Now this baby, obviously a lot of flame influence coming in there. You can see some Dalmatian spots, of course missing its tail, and it is starting to get a little bit more red, which is just spectacular. That's kind of what I'm hoping for all the babies, and hopefully they grow up quickly so I can pick the ones I like and stop feeding the other ones, because I do have a bunch of them. Oh man, it's a treat today. We got some real nice reds. This is one of those patternless. A couple Dalmatian spots. When I say I want red patternless, I kind of don't want Dalmatian spots. But if the ones I raise up have a couple, I will breed them anyway. And who knows, maybe after that even just start two lines. One, I'll keep the reddest ones with the most Dalmatian spots. And two, I'll keep the reddest ones with the least amount of Dalmatian spots and try to get it more of a patternless. Who knows? But that baby's looking pretty good. Now here are two reds. I house these two together. I house these two together just because of lack of tubs, but I think with those new tubs and the ones I gotta wash, this will probably, you know, I have two that are two together, so there's two in this one, two in that one. I'll probably be separating a lot of them, just with the ones I've been selling lately, and especially with the show coming up. I am hoping to price a lot of the cresteds to sell at this upcoming show. A lot of the lower end stuff I kind of want to stop feeding and get it out. That higher end stuff, like those two adult females, if I put those up for sale, I am willing to sit on them for a little bit for the right price. Two more red babies. Patternless and waiting to grow up. Hopefully I don't have to feed too many reds for too long. In a couple months I'll probably pick 2 or 3 to sell off, so I don't have to keep feeding them all and growing them all up. I'll pick the ones that are doing, you know, the least amount of color, probably the most amount of pattern, will be sold off. This one, obviously one of the older ones, and obviously getting some color. Again, just a couple Dalmatian spots, but we can work with that. Yep, hopefully they all end up being really red, and I can't wait to finally have a red group. I know I've been wanting one for quite a while, and I started with hatchlings. So hopefully we'll see some nice red babies here in the room in about a year. Alright, so here we have the last red and really the last baby. And this is one of those I was saying that has a lot of pattern. And it'll probably be this one will be one of the ones that I will be selling, and the first one, and I'll probably have to pick out another one, and I'll get these going and make sure they're nice and big and healthy, and probably put them up for sale or take them to a show or something, and make sure they're well taken care of. But you know, stuff like that is not in my breeding group's future. Now, moving on to the first of 3 breeder enclosures. This is what I consider my pinstripe group, and I'll go over every single gecko in here, and there's not really a lot of pinstriping going on in here. So first off, this girl, who, you know, was actually just given to me as a proven breeder, and she laid some good eggs the first year, but she's been throwing a lot of slugs, and she always kind of has thrown a lot of slugs. Now, I've gotten quite a few out of this enclosure, but I know for a fact she's been laying a lot of slugs, so I'm going to take her to the show and sell her as a retired breeder. Full disclosure, of course. And it's one of the reasons, you know, there's a lot of reasons with this enclosure specifically that I want to really separate all my adults. And, you know, I talked about it before, my leopards are all separate. So if I have any geckos not laying or having trouble, I'll know for sure who it is and all that. This girl, you know, she has yet to lay an egg, but she's an awesome quad stripe. This is her first year. Obviously, she's a little bit small, and I just can't wait to have her breeding. And then we come over here, and we have my big girl. And in, we have my big girl, who's really the only one laying good eggs in here. And her and the male are the original ones I got for free. And they're really what got me into the crested geckos. So this is my male, huge head, beautiful, beautiful gecko, nice lavenders. A lavender line would be really nice. Fringe Morris actually has a really nice pink line I'd like to get into. And he has this weird eyeball thing. I don't know if any other geckos have that, but he's actually really beautiful and not quite a full pinstripe, but I picked him to pair my lily white with. Now, she is absolutely huge compared to when I got her. And so she's actually laid her first clutch. I watched her do it, and unfortunately they were infertiles, but anytime now she should be getting ready to lay her second clutch. And that's really the main reason I want to separate my females, is so I can make sure, you know, I can figure out who's laying infertiles, and I can figure out whose eggs are whose for certain projects like this, and when I get the xanthics, and, you know, in the future when I get some melanistics. Now, of course, my 2 gargoyle geckos, my male with the red stripe and the huge horns on that male, and then my female, who's not really special in any way. She's got the stripe, which I prefer the stripes. A nice long, never regenerated tail. Now, these 2 will probably most likely stay in my collection for at least a couple years to come, until I either produce or replace them with something extremely better. Some nice red stripes on this male. I'd like to see, you know, at least a little bit more, but he's got the big, huge horns that everyone loves. I mean, look at those things. That's a gargoyle right there. So I'd like to... I have 2 more eggs that should be hatching soon. I haven't had more eggs from this female yet, but I'm hoping she does start to lay them soon. And one of those 2 gargoyles that hatches, whichever one's nicer, I'm keeping, and, you know, hopefully it ends up being a girl. And I think every clutch from here on out, I'm just going to keep the nicest one and raise it up a little bit. And if it ends up being a male, I'll end up selling it, and if it ends up being a female, I will decide to keep it or not. So that's these guys. Next, we'll go on to my Dalmatians. Now, my Dalmatians are in the only enclosure that has yet to be cleaned. It's actually really dirty in here. I'm going to try to get in here and clean it next week, and I know a lot of people will yell at me in the comments, but hold your breath, because I really don't care what you guys say. If you think it looks dirty, it sucks to be you. I'll clean it when I get around to it. But first, one bad thing about it being dirty is the plants fall down every now and then. Yeah, so let's take a look at the geckos inside. This female produces the best babies for me. So she's very light with lots of spots, just like that one baby that I'm holding back. Of course, she has a nipped tail. She was like that when I got her, unfortunately. This one would be the next one for sale if I do sell any of my breeder females. You know, if that one raises up and ends up breeding a girl, this is the one I'll sell. It's got a couple of big spots on it, but nothing too crazy. Then we have Paradise, who, well, I misspoke. I thought she was going to be the next one. Paradise with the least amount of spots. You know, that's what I want to get rid of. I want to up the average amount of spots in the enclosure, so I'll get rid of Paradise next. And then this is the male. He's really, really green with some flames and quite a lot of spots. Couple small red spots, but he's just super, super green. And I wouldn't be opposed to replacing him with something better also. It all just depends on what I can grow up and, you know, if I'm selling a bunch, if I can afford to pick up a nice one to replace him. Now, this is another case where I really want to separate the females so I know which ones are producing and which ones aren't. It'll give each female a little bit more time to relax with the male in different enclosures. So I need to deep clean this enclosure down here, move these animals down, then deep clean the one they're in, and then most likely sell this and buy, you know, a couple of these. And this one's empty, so I'll probably end up moving my lily white into this one. It just had a baby gargoyle in it, so I might just wipe it down and put her in there and put a lay box with her. And that way, if she does lay, I'll know. So that has been all my new Caledonian geckos, all my gargoyles, all my crested geckos, and now you know my secret plans, so don't go telling anybody. But in a couple years, I'll have way better pinstripes, I'll have lots of really awesome Dalmatians, I'll have more gargoyles breeding, I'll have lily whites going, probably have a couple more lily whites because I'll hold back a couple, and I'll have a group of reds. And who knows, by that time, maybe I'll also have some of those fringe morph pinks that I like so much. So with that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was, you know, I haven't done a video like this in a while. I haven't had a lot of time in a while, so this video, I put a lot of effort into. I hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. That definitely helps out the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.